Hello everybody and welcome to France, where Lens have missed out on the chance to go top, losing away to impressive Lorient. The race for Europe is hotting up as Marseille, Monaco and Lille all win, while Lyon and Strasbourg fire blanks and Rennes lose for the first time in the Francaise era. We're also going to be discussing one of the most mercurial talents in the French game. It is all coming up in episode 30 of the French Football Show. There was no Paris Saint-Germain in action this weekend. Their game against Nantes was postponed, with PSG allowed to focus on the second leg of their Champions League tie against Chelsea. So the first game that got us underway was on Friday night. It was Marseille against Auxerre. Marseille starting to pick themselves up again under Abibé and Tom. They managed to get their third straight victory in the league.
They did, and it ended up being a very good weekend for them in that they closed the gap to Lens, albeit that is still a gap of 7 points. But more importantly, they've now got a 2-point cushion over Lyon, who dropped points at the weekend. So they are in pole position for third place. You'd think that would have helped to raise the mood at the Velodrome, and yet it is one of the most miserable places in all of European football at the moment. The first 45 minutes of the game against Auxerre on Friday night, the fans just decided not to support the team. And there was a banner to explain their reasoning. 45 minutes of silence for a season of humiliations. And Marseille really struggled to get going. And the goal, when it came, arrived quite late on, 11 minutes to go. Igor Paixão, Brazilian winger who's been in good form of late, getting in down the left, putting a ball into the box, and Amine Gouiri, who'd come on shortly before, ends up slamming it home. But yeah, no great euphoria, no huge scenes of celebration. The shadow of Marseille's humiliating exit from the Champions League and the loss on penalties to lose on the Coupe de France continues to hang over the club, and I think it will do for some time to come. The only thing they have to get, the only thing that they can salvage from this season is automatic Champions League qualification.
Yeah, they're on track just about, aren't they? They're 2 points above Lyon, 7 points behind Lens. So Lens had the opportunity to go top, with PSG out of action, but they came up short in Lorient. Lorient, who were unbeaten in 10 at home before this one. So it was always going to be a tough test. Bamba Dieng opened the scoring for Lorient. He's doing brilliantly. He's scored more Ligue 1 goals than any other player in 2026. He's got 7 Ligue 1 goals now. Lens came back through Odsonne Edouard. He got his 10th goal of the season, a good low finish. But just as it looked like Lens, they had time in that second half to go on and win the game, Lorient just picked it up again. Ayogun Tosin, the Benin international, came off the bench and he scored 45 seconds later. It's interesting, there was a touch of fortune about both Lorient goals, because
they're two horrible goals to concede.
Yeah, I kind of said in the commentary, because I was commentating this, that Lorient did have a bit of luck, but at the same time, like they absolutely provoked that luck. But yeah, Bamba Dieng, it's one of those where if you haven't scored in a while, that chance just disappears. But he's in this rich vein of form, and he took a miss kick, and Robin Rissa could only sort of push it away, and Dieng could score on the rebound, and then Tosin, brilliant 1-2 on the left. Arsene Kouassi going on the overlap. He was superb again, by the way. Put in a great cross, and Tosin tried to slot it home first time, but miscued it. But it turned into a perfect piece of ball control. So the goalkeeper dived, and he just had a very simple task then of just rolling it into the net. So it felt like it at that point was not going to be Lens's day. Lens, by the way, they were missing 3 of their usual back 5. Aguilar, Baidoo and Grady were out. Wesley Saïd, who was their top scorer going into the weekend, also missing. And Pierre Sage's squad is stretched, isn't it, Andy? And 6 defeats now. 6 defeats. They're still only 1 point off the top. So I'm not having this, Andy. I'm not having you saying it's all over now. because Lens have still got to play PSG at Bollard. But this is obviously a setback.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like they're only going to be winning the league if PSG really take their eye off the ball. I mean, I just don't think that. I mean, nobody at Lens ever said they were going to be competing for the title, and they're in a wonderful position to get Champions League qualification. They could still win the league, but I just think that a title-winning team in a normal season does not go and lose, two matches in such quick succession as they have there when they've been in a position to arguably seize the initiative in the title race. So they've been overperforming. I mean, there was no disgrace in losing to Monaco a couple of weeks ago, albeit the circumstances were not great for them because they'd been 2-0 up and threw it away. And really, there's no disgrace in losing to this Lorient team at the moment because they're having an incredible season. And, you must have the stat there, but the number of games that they've gone unbeaten at home, really incredible run. So no disgrace in losing that game, when you just in isolation. But had they gone there and won, it would have been a bit of a statement because it's a hard place to go and they haven't been able to do it. And you just wonder if I just feel that PSG, even in second gear, will probably still get it over the line. But you're right, there's still a little bit of time left, and there probably are a few more twists and turns to come, especially if PSG keep going in the Champions League. Somehow they have this bizarre idea that cancelling all their games in between Champions League matches is a good idea, because actually if it comes down to, okay, well, they should probably beat Nantes with their eyes closed, that game that was called off. But I mean, can we just talk about that for a second? I was commentating Strasbourg yesterday. Strasbourg, in between the two legs of their European tie, had to play a league game, just as Lyon have had to do, just as Lille have had to do. Why on earth have the richest club in the country by absolutely miles had their game called off, especially when they had a home fixture against one of the worst teams in the country? It's just an absolute nonsense.
Well, that's right, and it sets a precedent, doesn't it? Like, you can understand the French league want the French teams to do well, but if you're giving PSG the weekend off, you're right. Like, Strasbourg and Lyon were clearly struggling energy-wise, and you make a good point as ever, and Andrew Scott.
Thank you.
Lyon drew 0-0 away to Le Havre. Le Havre had 10 men for much of the second half. Strasbourg drew 0-0 with Paris FC. So Antoine Comboire steadying the ship there. We're going to talk a little bit about coaches. First of all, Andy, tell us about what happened in Angers against Nice, which was the game you were complaining a bit about getting short straws in the commentary.
No, not complaining, but not a lot happened in this game. There were two goals, no? There were two goals, yeah. Eli Wahi came off the bench, and he's done very well since Nice signed him on loan from Eintracht Frankfurt.
Eli Wahi.
Very.
What was that?
I like to sing his name to the tune of that Backstreet Boys song. Waiting for it to catch on amongst the Nice fans. Sorry, Andy, carry on.
Sure, yeah. A very, very promising striker, but kind of lost his way a bit at Marseille, went to Germany, lost his way even more. But he's come back to France and is doing very well at Nice. He was injured for a few weeks, but he's come back at the weekend, came off the bench, set up a goal, and then scored a lovely goal at the end from distance over Hervé Kofi, who was off his line because he'd actually been kind of joining the attack as Angers were looking for an equaliser. So he did very well, and he was brought on by Claude Puel, who has improved the team since he took over in December, because they were in such a terrible situation before that. But it's a very gentle improvement. It's only been a couple of wins. It'll be enough for them to get to safety, but it's nothing special.
And Andy, I think you've got a rant. I think you've got something you want to get off your chest here. We've got Claude Puel, Antoine Comboire, and Vahid Halilhodzic also now back in Ligue 1. Andy Scott, this is going to be your first FFS moment.
Well, we were exchanging about this a few days ago, weren't we? Talking about, obviously, Vahid Halilhodzic coming back in at Nantes off the back of Claude Puel getting the Nice job and Antoine Comboire getting the Paris FC job. Now, in a way, you perhaps shouldn't sort of, they're not all the same. Vahid Halilhodzic is in his 70s, he's very much a veteran. He's kind of been brought back from nowhere to take that job. Comboire is considerably younger. He's only 62. I don't wish to come across as being ageist in any way whatsoever, of course, but I think it really does stand out that about a third of all the coaches in Ligue 1 are almost 60 or into their 60s, or in the case of Halilhodzic, in their 70s. They are getting towards the end of their careers, when the trend in other major leagues is for much younger coaches to work there. You look at the Premier League, the only coach aged over 60 is David Moyes at Everton. So that indicates something to me, which I think is a little bit concerning, is the lack of young coaches coming through. The youngest coach in Ligue 1 is Sébastien Pocognoli, who's obviously Belgian, who's 38. You've got Didier Digard at Le Havre, who's 39. But other than that, you're getting towards the slightly older end of the coaching spectrum. And even if you look in the second division, there are not many young coaches working there. I think Albert Sanchez at Dunkirk is in his late 30s, and he's the youngest one by some distance. So this is a problem in French football, I think, that we have this situation where the coaching merry-go-round seems to keep spitting back out the same guys. Antoine Kombouaré was being linked with a move back to Nantes a few weeks ago, and he's ended up at Paris FC, having just had 2 knee replacements. It just speaks at a lack of inspiration, a lack of creativity, and probably a lack in a country which has got an amazing ability to bring through players, doesn't seem to have the same ability to bring through talented coaches who can work at the top level.
I was listening to Jérôme Rotten on French radio, and it was quite funny because he played under Vahid Halilhodzic at PSG, and he said, "I'm not gonna go in and have a go at Vahid Halilhodzic. He was past it 20 years ago. I don't know what he's like now," which is pretty tough. But he's good value, though, Coach Vahid. So he's called Coach Vahid because of his very sort of military aura and the way that he kind of bosses people about. One of his comments in his first press conference was about his striker, Mathis Abline, who's probably the most talented player at Nantes. And he said, people tell me that Mathis Abline is brilliant. He's scored 4 goals this season. I used to score 4 goals in one game. and he was really good. Like, he was a really prolific striker, and he was sort of joking. I don't think he was completely sort of hammering Mathis Abline. But Tom, it's going to take something to spark Nantes' season. But more generally, what do you think about this? And perhaps the bigger question is, where are the top talented young French coaches?
Well, I actually wrote a piece about this time last year for The Athletic, and I think there are all sorts of different factors. But one thing that came up is how long it takes to become a fully qualified professional coach in France compared to other countries. In order to coach in Ligue 1, you need to have the Brevet d'entraîneur professionnel de football, so the professional football coaching certificate. In order to even get on that course, there are various different criteria you need to have fulfilled. There are various other qualifications that you need. And as a consequence, you look at kind of even the coaches that we tend to think of as being youngish, up-and-coming coaches, people like Pierre Sage and Habib Bey, they're both in their mid-late 40s. It's extremely difficult for younger coaches to come through. Obviously, Didier Digard is a little bit younger. That's very positive. But I think that is an issue. The French Football Federation's coaching qualification courses are also a lot more expensive than they are in other countries. And we've seen in recent years a surprisingly high number of legendary French players, Patrick Vieira, Thierry Henry, people like that, doing their coaches with the Welsh Football Association, because for one, the fees are lower, but also you tend not to have to wait anything like as long to get your qualification. So I think it's a very French instinct, this instinct to ask all your coaches to be fully qualified before they can actually start work. But I think it puts French coaches as a disadvantage. And this is something that I've heard speaking to young French coaches, frustrated at how long it takes, and particularly frustrated when they see, and this is another factor, I think, foreign Ligue 1 club owners coming in and deliberately deciding not to appoint a French coach, but bringing in an Italian coach or Portuguese coach. And there's another kind of complaint within the French coaching fraternity that Portuguese coaches, to take one example, are much more kind of collegiate and all work together and work for each other and lobby on each other's behalf. You don't get the same thing in France. And the fact that there are fewer French club owners than there used to be means that they are less inclined to want to appoint French coaches as well.
Well, we'll see if Vahid Halilhodzic can keep Nantes up. The game of the weekend was actually in Metz. Poor old Metz. They equalised in the 88th minute to make it 3-3 against Toulouse. Abouashvili, their Georgian player, equalising. But in the 99th minute, Mario Soa scored a winner for Toulouse, and it finished 4-3. So Metz are pretty much doomed now. Monaco got a 2-0 win over Brest, Balogun and Golovin. 5 wins in a row for Monaco. They're very much in contention. They were up to 5th, but then dropped down to 6th after Lille won 2-1 away to Rennes. Fernandez Pardo playing as a centre-forward because Giroud was on the bench. He had a really strong game, ran in behind inside 2 minutes to open the scoring. And then right at the start of the second half, he picked up possession on the edge of his own box after a Rennes corner. He ran about 60 yards up the right wing, crossed for Hakon Haraldsson, and Haraldsson made it 2-0. A first defeat for Francaise. Esteban Laporte pulled one back, but it wasn't enough. The honeymoon period seems to be over for Rennes. I'm going to ask you guys very quickly just to finish, who is going to finish, let's say, top 4? So I'm assuming we're going PSG, Lens, top 2. Well, certainly Lens will finish up there. Marseille are 7 points behind Lens. Lyon are then 2 points behind Marseille. And then you've got Lille, 3 points further back. Monaco, the informed team, a point behind Lille and therefore 4 points off the top 4. And Monaco, by the way, level with Rennes. So probably that's where we'll stop. I think Strasbourg are out of the race. Tom, who are you going for then to join PSG and Lens in the Champions League?
I'm going to say Marseille and Monaco. Monaco have hit form at just the right time, as they very often do at this time in the season. And Lyon appear to have lost form at exactly the wrong time. 4 games without a win, awful lot of injuries. Endrick has gone off the boil. So yeah, I'm going to go Monaco to pip them to 4th.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure who'll finish necessarily in which order, but I think Marseille should have enough about them, and I think Monaco, or Monaco, as some people used to call them. Why did that happen? Monaco, I think, will finish top 4. And I think that Lyon, I would say that Endrick was never really in form. I think that I have a bit of an issue with this. He scored a hat-trick against Metz, who are absolutely terrible. He hasn't done a huge amount else apart from shoot from about 50 yards every time he gets the ball. Maybe that's a discussion for another day, but I'm not that impressed by what I've seen from Endrick. I don't think he's been like, a disgrace, but I think he's not quite been the player that he was expected to be or hoped to be when he came in. So I think that is a thing that is not helping Lyon particularly.
No, and Lyon missing a lot of other attacking players now because Moreira's injured, Pavel Schultz is injured, still missing Noama and Fofana. So not easy for Paulo Fonseca's team, but they currently are in 4th position. And that is a wrap then for this edition of the French Football Show. Thank you for joining us. If you've got any suggestions, any topics you want us to discuss, send us an email, league1podcast@gmail.com. But from Andy, Tom and myself, Matt Spiro, it's time to say goodbye. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.